Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Chainsaw Man Season 1. Now, I don't normally review anime series. I have done movies, and I'm not like an anime channel or anything. I had heard of this for a while, and I knew people who were really into it. It was curious, but like anime and manga, I just don't know where to start, and I can't really, I don't have the money to get into manga. And I saw the trailer for the Reze arc for Chainsaw Man, and I thought this is really cool. And I felt like I was missing out on something. And I kind of just went, well, why don't I just watch episode 1? And if I hate it, whatever, who cares? And maybe I'll see Reze arc without seeing it or something, or maybe I'll realize it's not for me. And I watched the first one, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, well, there's enough of these that I could watch this before the movie. And so this is sort of my story with season 1. I'll do a separate video for Reze arc as a movie. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. I'm not really part of any anime community, nor do I know that many people into it, but I myself got really into this show. At first, it was because, he's a guy with a lot of chainsaws, and that's pretty neat. But also because Denji, I definitely see myself in, but also remember what I was like at, I guess he's a teenager, his age. And the fun of the animation, how awesome particularly the fight scenes were, how it was very into the realism kind of aspect in some cases, but then we go really fantastical. It was visually unpredictable. One of the things I really hate about modern live action films is a lot of them are like very stagnant and kind of use the same visual grammar, and it's not very dynamic. Whereas I feel like animation, like, again, I don't know anime super well, but like, or current anime, that you see with the Spider-Verse or you see with K-pop Demon Hunters, even, where it's like far more dynamic, and that appeals to me a lot more. I find it visually just really exciting, and I found that about this show a lot. But Denji as a character, like, I remember being a kid and being that desperate, and like I'm always kind of broke and stuff, so it's like I can relate to that. His constant need for, like, particularly like his obsession with boobs, which is like, I can relate to that too. But like, I think it's also like he's just like, doesn't have a lot going on. He's kind of sad in these like economic depressed times. I don't see a lot of characters who, particularly the leads actually, that I can relate to as much as I felt with him. And although I've seen a lot of people talk about how it's like very sad, his life, and depressing, I didn't necessarily feel that. I felt, I was like, I would fall asleep in that hotel room too. But also, like, the change in my quality of life. And I think, like, I get that that's his main motivation. But I really did like that it's filled with all these other characters. Like Denji, Denji is sort of like a lot of leads, and that's the problem people have with lead characters, is they're like the least interesting character. I don't think that is true of him, but he sometimes can, you can have the other characters like Power. I think Aki is the one, or Makima. I'm probably not saying anybody's name right. I didn't know people liked Aki as much as they did until I heard later. He wasn't stand up to me. It was more like Power, Makima. I liked Aki's arc and all that, particularly Denji. But I think like you do get more into the characters because it sort of like understands that. I mean, Denji's really cool. He turns into like a chainsaw man, which is awesome and stuff. But like, you can't just have the whole show revolve around him, and they're able to use these different characters to keep the show insanely interesting, which I really liked. I thought the way the show worked with Makima taking him on and like them fighting these demons and stuff, it kind of like showed me an arc of someone who like got this amazing job, got his life changing and stuff. But it's also like, I think like, okay, so story over for a lot of people, a lot of stories and stuff, but then it becomes like, how does he navigate that? What does he want out of the job as he learns certain things? Maybe he wants to be even better, how he's gaining in his abilities, how he's smart, things like that, which I thought, shows like, yeah, he's kind of a really horny, broke dumbass, but like at the same time, like seeing him grow throughout the show, I think really shows a pretty amazing arc that you kind of almost don't notice because you're looking at Power or Aki or Makima or the Gun Devil or all that stuff. And I also I liked them going on these various like kind of, I wouldn't say monster of the week type scenarios, but particularly I guess it's a bottle episode, but you're like in most bottle episodes and traditional like sitcom, I guess that's where the term came from at least. you're locked in a basement, or oh no, we were supposed to put away things in the music room and the music room's locked. It's pretty basic like that. And instead of doing that, they're like stuck in a dimension where they're just stuck on, I think it was the 8th floor or whatever floor it was. And that was really interesting. Like, you're stuck in a bottle episode, weird demon dimension is actually a cool angle to take it. Like, what if you're like eternally stuck in this bottle episode? Was really smart. I actually thought that was a really good way to take on the genre and that idea of an episode. I'd never seen someone, I mean, I think I've seen sci-fi things do it, but they don't play with it as much as that did in my mind. It really like gets to them and stuff like that. Usually it's like two characters just yell at each other and become stronger afterwards, which I think the group did, but like it wasn't as much about like two characters, about sort of all of them, and you understand backstory and stuff in a very natural way. I think backstory is like a hard thing to do, particularly with a show that you need that backstory, like Aki's one with the Gun Devil particularly and stuff like that. When you understand how him and his partner's chemistry that would lead to things later, and you know how Denji just fell asleep, which is what I would do, which is probably why I'm annoying and stuff. I didn't know until I watched and researched this that like supposedly the creator of Chainsaw Man really likes like movies, and like I got that they're doing like Reservoir Dogs and Big Lebowski and People Said Texas Chainsaw. I don't see it, and like various things in the intro and other stuff, and maybe that is why I liked it. I was like, oh, maybe that's probably why I was so into this, because it's more like, you know, I really like movies and it was more referencing that. But I do think there was more there. It did kind of become a bit of an escape for me, because it just felt like something new and different that I really wanted viewing wise. And to me, like, it's just like I don't watch any anime, and I got into this, and I just like really loved it, and made me feel sort of, I guess, like a part of my own cool club. And it's also neat, like, what are you watching? You say Chainsaw Man, and that sounds like a crazy funny thing, but like I was very attached to all these characters and the arcs, and I will admit, like, there are sometimes I'm watching an episode, I'm like, so when is he turning into the Chainsaw Man? Like, I get the character dynamics, that's neat, but like, when are we getting him as a Chainsaw Man? Can we go back to that? Could we just do that every episode? And when there wasn't one, I was like, I mean, I like this episode, but like, I would like to see him as the Chainsaw Man. I like Pushita, I guess, who's in the beginning. That's like cool. If I had a rich person, I'd have one of those like toy ones that people have. I saw in an anime store and stuff. Those look so cool. I love that. I love that little dog, but you don't see the dog after, you know, becomes part of Denji and stuff like that. But man, what a cute dog. I don't know. I would get, maybe, I don't know if I can do Chainsaw Man, the shirt with my kids, but maybe that character. He's a cute little like dog with a chainsaw. What's as a nose? What's not to like there? There's not a lot of shows I watch where I see the season 1 and I go, oh, okay, that was a good season, but next season will be really good or something like that. I really didn't feel like when it ended, I was like, oh, I want to keep going on the adventures. I did see the movie. I also did watch this dubbed, which is something I don't normally do. When I do animation, the only skill I have is lip sync. So I often don't like dubbed, but I kind of let it go because I was like, well, this was my show I watched when I took my lunch break at work and stuff. So I was like, oh, well, it's like on my phone. And I don't know. I just got in with the dubbed thing. I did actually watch subbed in theaters, which is interesting. But just because timing worked out that way. But I'll talk about that later. I did like the dub voices. They're all really good. I think with this show, we don't have a lot of, I've noticed like in America, all of our sort of slacker shows became like this desperate need to find meaning in like why you're a slacker at this age or what it means to be a slacker at this time and all this stuff. And like, I do think that's become a cliche that's like not as fun to watch. And as I watch other stuff from other parts of the world about this, it seems like they're more into, particularly this show, like, well, you know, you're depressed, like being, you know, a millennial or Gen Z or whatever, and like the job market stinks and like you can't get anywhere and it's like feels really depressing. But like, what if we did all that, but you also turned into a chainsaw man? And that is the part I really, really liked. It was like, okay, you have all that stuff, but he kills demons and stuff, and he's still like, you know, kind of a loser and a little desperate and like is mainly doing this for like really surface level reasons, But like he can turn into this chainsaw guy, and that like I actually really like that. Like, why have this millennial like existential crisis and stuff if you're just gonna wallow in it? Why not like give him the superpower that he's trying to figure out? I thought was a really good way to take that plot line. Actually, I thought it was really refreshing and interesting because I've gotten sick of those shows. I'm like, okay, I mean, we're all in this, but like, what are we saying with this? And I don't know if they have a point necessarily. I think this showing him how he's grown through this and through his abilities and like understanding it while also being who he is, I think says a little bit more because we evolve as people, whether it's every year, week, and so forth. And sometimes they're small changes, sometimes they're not. But I think Denji showed that a lot throughout this. It's probably one of my favorite sort of slackery kind of shows since maybe Regular Show or something, where I just sort of like fell in love with it. And maybe it's because I do really like Denji. It goes through all like somebody throws up in his mouth. I did see the manga. It was all blurred, which I was like, I eat lunch during the show, you motherfuckers. Like, what the fuck? I don't know. I do think when you're that age, you have a lot of like bad luck in love while you're trying to figure it out, and people either take advantage of you, or you do something stupid, or you say something stupid, or you take advantage of someone, not in a creepy way, but all that sort of thing. And you like being part of a group and having friends and all the ins and outs of that. I never killed any demons, and then signing the pact with the demons, like Makima's, when you learn her demon power, that's like insane. I've heard people suggest that she is not human, that she's just a demon, which I am like, okay, maybe, I don't know. I didn't really speculate. Sometimes I'm like, oh, let's see what you're gonna do, baby. Let's see where we're going with this. I don't know if this is a good starter anime. You can tell me. And this is sort of a loose review because, I will say when I looked up, one thing I actually like about anime reviews for seasons that I don't actually like about when we talk about American shows is anime will talk about the history of the genre and this kind of a thing and what they compare it to in history of anime and stuff. And American TV critics and stuff don't do that at all. And I've asked think that's a very weird thing, whereas movie criticism always does that. So I actually kind of like that, to be honest. I was like, oh, this is neat. I was like, I don't know any of these references, but this is kind of neat. I don't know Mappa at all. I thought they did a good job, though. I know they have various working conditions, but this is not a working conditions review. But that's unfortunate that they do that. The 3D assets looked fine within it and stuff like that. I'm not an animation nitpicker, really, but what I liked about this is I think this is a really good show for now that we're in sort of like our own like sadder kind of economic recession, depression, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And I thought this was a better way to take it on, particularly someone who is in desperate needs and seeing them kind of advance through it. I mean, it's one thing, I think, to do that and think of what someone did in in America, at least in the 20s, and people would look at big Bubsley Berkeley things and stuff. But you see someone advance and like, oh, they're money and it's wonderful. And there's a certain aspect to that is really, wish fulfillment and all that. But with Chainsaw Man, what I like about it is like he gets this job fighting demons and stuff. And then you actually see him learn from it when he gets with the one guy with I forget his name, I'm sorry, with the blonde guy with the scars on him and stuff. You see how he's being smart, and him and Power like being friends. And they're like great workplace friends who should just be workplace friends. So I was like, so that's someone you get along with at work. You're like, let's not hang out after Power. I'm okay. You seem a little much. But seeing him advance through this job is more realistic because if you got this good job, you have to advance and understand and change and stuff. And there's some, I think, a lot of shows that show that someone's new to the workplace, you eventually see them grow because they have so many episodes, they want to do other things. That's not a center point in it. And I think it really is because by the end, he's really grown as a character and as a person. And that's a fun arc to follow. Maybe I'm too Denji focused or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, and I'm not trying to be a jerk and act like you guys all want the certain things from reviews. I'm not sure because I'm not part of it, even though I watched some reviews and research and stuff. What people are supposed to say and stuff, but this is just my own experience. I really did enjoy this. I am kind of interested in getting into other animes if you want to suggest one based on at least my like of this or what you're hearing from me with this. You can comment below because I'm interested. I don't know if I'll review them all. I'm not promising anything, but I'm at least open to it. And I think one thing as I get older, I like to get into all sorts of different stuff, and I'm not as committed to liking stuff from my childhood or from this. I really like to engage with different things, especially things that I look at and go, well, I think I'm missing out on something, and I'm glad I engaged with this, and now I've watched all of it. I don't know if I'll ever read the manga. Maybe I should get that out of the library or something. It was like exciting taking my lunch break and stuff and going like, all right, now I get to watch Chainsaw Man. This rules. And it was sort of like a nice little escape in my life. And I very much appreciate that with Chainsaw Man Season 1. I don't no clue when Season 2 comes out, but I think this is like a nice, cool slacker escape show. And, for me, I kind of like shows like that. But I also like a dude with a bunch of chainsaws cutting the shit out of shit with all the blood and the gore and all that stuff. I'm like, this is awesome. And then, you can watch him, be a dumbass and, obsess over boobs and stuff when he's not being a chainsaw man. I can't think of a more perfect show. I was really into this. It was really wonderful, and I'm glad to have experienced it. Maybe it's not for everyone. I think it is more for the maybe younger and dude and stuff like that. I don't know its appeal, but I definitely had a good time with this. So, try to be open to stuff, because you'd be surprised then you're watching all Chainsaw Man making a video and stuff. So if you've seen Chainsaw Man Season 1 and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.